How does someone find love in the heart of hell? What kind of faith burns so bright it can illuminate the darkest corner of human cruelty? And why did Maximilian's final act of sacrifice echo through history as proof that love is indeed stronger than death? This is the story of Saint Maximilian Kolbe, the prisoner who proved that no earthly power can destroy a soul that belongs completely to God. And if you've ever wondered whether good can triumph over evil, let this story show you love's ultimate victory. Do you believe love can truly conquer hate? Follow this journey of sacrifice and courage. Hit like and subscribe for more stories that reveal light, even in history's darkest places. On the 8th of January, 1894, in the small Polish village of Zadunska Wola, a boy was born who would one day prove that love is the most powerful force in the universe. Rodzman Kolbe entered a world where his homeland had been erased from the map, divided between Russian, German, and Austrian empires, where speaking Polish was forbidden and practicing Catholicism was barely tolerated. Rodzman's parents, Julius and Maria Kolbe, were devout Catholics who ran a small weaving shop and dreamed of Polish independence. Their home was filled with stories of heroes who had died for freedom, of saints who had faced martyrdom with joy, and of the Virgin Mary, who was believed to be Poland's true queen and protector. From his earliest years, Rodzman showed signs of the intensity that would mark his entire life. He was a gifted student, fascinated by mathematics and science, but also drawn to prayer with an unusual depth for a child. His mother later recalled that he would kneel for hours before their family shrine to Mary, lost in contemplation that seemed to transport him beyond their humble cottage. At age 10, Rodzman experienced a vision that would shape his destiny. The Virgin Mary appeared to him, holding two crowns, one white, representing purity, and one red, representing martyrdom. "Which would you choose?" she asked. Without hesitation, the boy replied, "I choose both." This vision wasn't a child's fantasy, but a prophetic glimpse of his future. Rodzman would indeed pursue both crowns with single-minded devotion, living a life of extraordinary purity while preparing for a martyrdom that would inspire millions. At 13, Rodzman entered the Franciscan seminary, taking the religious name Maximilian. His academic brilliance was immediately evident. He earned doctorates in both philosophy and theology from Rome's Gregorian University, writing dissertations that impressed his professors with their depth and originality. But Maximilian's greatest passion wasn't academic achievement. It was devotion to the Virgin Mary. He founded the Militia Immaculata, Army of the Immaculate One, a movement dedicated to converting the entire world through consecration to Mary. His vision was breathtaking in scope. Every soul on earth brought to Christ through the intercession of his mother. In 1918, Maximilian was ordained a priest and returned to Poland, where he threw himself into spreading Marian devotion through every available means. He founded a magazine called Night of the Immaculata, established a printing apostolate that would become one of Europe's largest. He then created a community called Niepokalanów, City of the Immaculate One, that housed hundreds of friars dedicated to evangelization. Maximilian was a medieval mystic with a modern mind. He embraced radio, film, and aviation as tools for spreading the gospel. He established radio stations, produced religious films, and even obtained a pilot's license, believing that technology could serve the kingdom of God. But the darkness gathering over Europe would soon test whether his faith could survive the ultimate trial. By the 1930s, Maximilian had built a media empire dedicated to spreading Catholic truth and Marian devotion. His magazine reached nearly 1 million readers, his radio broadcasts were heard across Poland, and his printing presses produced millions of religious pamphlets and books. Niepokalanów had become a city within a city, housing over 760 friars and producing more religious literature than any other institution in Europe. But Maximilian saw storm clouds gathering. The rise of Nazi Germany and its virulent anti-Catholic, anti-Semitic ideology represented everything he opposed. While many Polish intellectuals hoped for accommodation with Hitler, Maximilian understood that Nazism was fundamentally incompatible with Christian faith. In his writings, he began warning about the dangers of totalitarian ideologies that sought to replace God with the state, Christ with a Führer, and eternal truth with racial mythology. His magazine published articles defending human dignity, condemning anti-Semitism, and upholding the Catholic Church's teaching on the equal worth of all souls. When Germany invaded Poland on the 1st of September 1939, Maximilian made a decision that would define his final years. While many religious communities fled or went into hiding, he chose to remain at Niepokalanów, continuing his publishing apostolate even as the Nazis began their systematic persecution of Polish clergy. The Franciscan community at Niepokalanów became a refuge for Polish refugees, including Jews fleeing Nazi persecution. Maximilian opened the doors to anyone seeking shelter, regardless of their religion or background. He understood that love of neighbor must be concrete, practical, and costly. "We must remember that love is measured by sacrifice," he told his fellow friars. "If we truly love the Immaculate Mother, we must be willing to lay down our lives for those she loves." As the Nazi occupation tightened, Maximilian continued publishing underground materials that encouraged Polish resistance and maintained Catholic morale. His printing presses, which had once produced devotional literature, now secretly produced materials supporting the Polish underground and offering hope to a conquered people. The Gestapo was watching. Reports reached Nazi authorities about the subversive priest who was undermining German authority through his religious activities. On the 17th of February 1941, the inevitable happened. SS officers surrounded Niepokalanów and arrested Maximilian along with 4 other friars. As they led him away in chains, Maximilian turned to his community with words that would prove prophetic. "Pray for me, that I may remain faithful unto death." The knight who had chosen both crowns was about to receive them. The train that carried Maximilian from the Pawiak prison in Warsaw to Auschwitz on the 28th of May, 1941, was packed with Polish intellectuals, priests, and resistance fighters. The Nazis had a systematic plan to eliminate Poland's educated class, believing that a leaderless people would be easier to control and eventually exterminate. Auschwitz in 1941 was still primarily a concentration camp, rather than the extermination facility it would later become. But it was already a place designed to break human spirits through systematic cruelty, starvation, and dehumanization. Prisoners were given numbers instead of names, fed starvation rations, and subjected to random violence that made survival a matter of luck as much as endurance. Maximilian became prisoner number 16670. The SS guards, discovering he was a Catholic priest, subjected him to particular cruelty. They forced him to carry heavy logs at a run, assigned him to the most dangerous work details, and denied him the minimal privileges given to other prisoners. But something extraordinary happened in the hell of Auschwitz. Maximilian's faith didn't break, it deepened. While other prisoners succumbed to despair, hatred, or the animal instinct for survival at any cost, Maximilian maintained his humanity and his priesthood. He heard confessions and whispers during work details. He shared his meager rations with weaker prisoners. He offered comfort to those facing execution and hope to those who had given up. In a place designed to reduce human beings to numbers, Maximilian remained stubbornly, radiantly human. "Look how beautiful it is," he would say to fellow prisoners as they gazed at the stars through the barracks windows. "The same God who made those stars made us, and no earthly power can change that." His fellow inmates later testified that Maximilian never complained, never cursed his captors, never lost his gentle manner even under the most brutal treatment. He seemed to carry within himself a light that no darkness could extinguish. The SS guards noticed this too, and it infuriated them. Here was a man they couldn't break, a spirit they couldn't crush. Their systematic cruelty, designed to reduce prisoners to subhuman creatures fighting for survival, had no effect on this Polish priest who continued to love his enemies. But the ultimate test was coming. In July 1941, an incident would occur that would give Maximilian the opportunity to make the supreme sacrifice. and prove that love truly is stronger than death. The moment that would define eternity was just weeks away. In late July 1941, a prisoner escaped from Maximilian's block at Auschwitz. The Nazi response was swift and brutal. As collective punishment, 10 men from the same block would be selected at random and sentenced to death by starvation in the underground bunker. It was a calculated cruelty designed to turn prisoners against each other and make escape attempts unthinkable. The prisoners were lined up in the scorching sun, while Deputy Camp Commandant Karl Fritsch walked among them, selecting victims with casual indifference. When his finger pointed at Franciszek Gajowniczek, a Polish army sergeant, the man cried out in anguish, "My wife, my children, I will never see them again." In that moment of ultimate despair, something unprecedented happened. From the ranks of prisoners, an emaciated figure stepped forward. Maximilian Kolbe, prisoner 16670, removed his cap and spoke words that would echo through history. "I would like to take the place of this man." The SS guards were stunned. In the dehumanizing system of Auschwitz, prisoners were supposed to be concerned only with their own survival. Acts of selfless love were not just unexpected. They were incomprehensible to the Nazi worldview. Fritsch stared at Maximilian with amazement and suspicion. "Who are you?" he demanded. "I am a Catholic priest," Maximilian replied calmly. "I would like to take the place of this man because he has a wife and children, and I have no one." The deputy commandant was so shocked by this unprecedented request that he actually granted it. In the twisted logic of the concentration camp, one number could replace another. Franciszek Gajowniczek was returned to the ranks, and Maximilian was added to the group sentenced to die. As they were led away to the starvation bunker, Maximilian walked with peaceful dignity, even offering words of comfort to his fellow condemned prisoners. He had made his choice freely, gladly, out of pure love for a stranger. But this was not just an individual act of heroism. It was a cosmic confrontation between the kingdom of God and the kingdom of darkness. In volunteering to die for another, Maximilian was imitating Christ himself, proving that love could flourish even in the depths of human evil. The guards who witnessed this extraordinary scene would never forget it. Many later testified that they had seen something that challenged everything they believed about human nature, about power, about the meaning of existence itself. Maximilian was about to transform even death into victory. The underground starvation bunker at Auschwitz was designed to be a place of ultimate despair. Prisoners condemned to die there were given no food or water, left to suffer in darkness until death released them from their agony. The Nazis intended it to be a slow, agonizing end that would break both body and spirit. But when Maximilian entered cell 18 with 9 other condemned men, something unprecedented began to happen. Instead of the usual sounds of despair, cursing, weeping, and the gradual descent into madness, the guards heard something they had never experienced in that place of death. The sound of prayer and singing. Maximilian had transformed the bunker into a chapel. He led his fellow prisoners in prayers, hymns to the Virgin Mary, and meditations on the Passion of Christ. Guards who came to check on the dying men found them gathered around the Polish priest, their faces radiant with peace despite their suffering. Never in the history of Auschwitz, one guard later testified, had we seen anything like this. These men who were dying of starvation were praying and singing. It was as if they had found something more important than life itself. Bruno Borgowiec, a Polish interpreter who brought soup to other prisoners in the bunker, witnessed Maximilian's final days. Father Kolbe never asked for anything and gave the impression of being at peace. When I brought the soup, he was standing or kneeling in the middle, and the others were praying around him. He took care of them and encouraged them, saying that the fugitive would certainly be found and then they would all be freed. But Maximilian's care went beyond spiritual comfort. He shared whatever water condensed on the walls, offered his own strength to support the weakest, and maintained hope when hope seemed impossible. He was living out his complete consecration to Mary by becoming like her son, laying down his life for his friends. One by one, The other prisoners died. Their suffering finally ended. But Maximilian survived, sustained by a strength that seemed to come from beyond the natural order. After 2 weeks, he remained alive, conscious, and still praying. The SS authorities were growing impatient. They needed the bunker for other condemned prisoners, and this Polish priest's refusal to die was becoming an embarrassment. On the 14th of August, 1941, the eve of the Feast of the Assumption, they decided to end his life with a lethal injection of carbolic acid. When the camp executioner entered cell 18, he found Maximilian sitting peacefully against the wall, his eyes raised toward heaven. He extended his arm for the injection with such calm that even the hardened killer was moved. "Never have I seen a man die like this," the executioner later said. He was peaceful, almost joyful, as if he were going home. Maximilian Kolbe died as he had lived, in perfect union with the love of Christ, having chosen the ultimate imitation of his Savior's sacrifice. But death was not his defeat. It was his coronation. News of Maximilian's sacrifice spread through Auschwitz like underground fire. In a place designed to extinguish hope and human dignity, his voluntary death for a stranger became a beacon of light that no darkness could quench. Franciszek Gajowniczek, the man whose life had been saved, carried the story with him after the war's end. "I want everyone to know," he would say for the rest of his long life, "that Father Kolbe died in my place. Because of him, I was able to return to my wife and children. He gave me the gift of life." But Maximilian's sacrifice resonated far beyond one saved life. Prisoners throughout the camp began speaking in hushed tones about the priest who had chosen love over survival, who had proven that human beings could transcend the animal instinct for self-preservation, even in the face of ultimate evil. The story reached the outside world through secret networks of communication that connected Auschwitz to the Polish resistance and eventually to the Allies. In a war characterized by unprecedented cruelty and systematic dehumanization, Maximilian's sacrifice offered proof that human dignity was indestructible, that love could triumph even in the depths of hell. After the war, as the full horror of the Holocaust became known, Maximilian's story took on even greater significance. Survivors testified that his example had given them strength to maintain their humanity in circumstances designed to destroy it. He had shown that victims could refuse to be dehumanized by their oppressors, that moral choices remained possible even in the most extreme situations. The Catholic Church, recognizing the extraordinary nature of Maximilian's sacrifice, began the process of canonization almost immediately. Pope Paul VI beatified him in 1971, calling him a martyr of charity who had demonstrated the ultimate meaning of Christian love. But the culminating moment came on the 10th of October 1982, when Pope John Paul II, himself a Polish survivor of Nazi occupation, canonized Maximilian Kolbe before 150,000 people in St. Peter's Square. Franciszek Gajowniczek, then 81 years old, was present to witness the recognition of the man who had saved his life. "Greater love than this no man has," the Pope declared, "than that he lay down his life for his friends." And even more, Maximilian Kolbe laid down his life for a stranger. The prisoner who had faced Auschwitz with love had become Saint Maximilian Kolbe, patron of prisoners, drug addicts, political prisoners, families, and journalists. A recognition of his varied apostolates and his universal appeal. But his true legacy couldn't be captured in official titles or formal recognition. Today, more than 80 years after his death, Saint Maximilian Kolbe's sacrifice continues to inspire millions around the world. His story has become one of the most powerful testimonies to the triumph of good over evil, love over hatred, hope over despair. At Auschwitz, now a memorial and museum, visitors from every nation and faith tradition stand in cell 18 where Maximilian died. Many report experiencing a profound sense of peace in that place of ultimate suffering, as if his presence somehow sanctified even that chamber of horrors. The impact of his sacrifice extends far beyond religious boundaries. Holocaust survivors of all backgrounds cite his example as proof that human beings can maintain their moral dignity, even in the face of systematic evil. Philosophers and ethicists study his choice as the perfect embodiment of selfless love in action. Mental health professionals working with trauma survivors often point to Maximilian's story as evidence that hope can survive even the worst human experiences. His transformation of the starvation bunker into a place of prayer demonstrates that external circumstances cannot destroy inner freedom when that freedom is rooted in divine love. Perhaps most powerfully, Maximilian's sacrifice has become a symbol of reconciliation between former enemies. The German Catholic Church has embraced him as a model of Christian discipleship, and many Germans make pilgrimages to Auschwitz to pray in the cell where he died, seeking forgiveness for their nation's crimes. His writings on devotion to Mary have spread throughout the world, inspiring new movements of Marian consecration and evangelization. The printing apostolate he began at Nepokalanov continues today through modern media, carrying his message of divine mercy and human dignity to new generations. But beyond all formal recognition and institutional impact, Maximilian's story continues to challenge individuals facing their own moral choices. In a world that often seems dominated by selfishness, violence, and the pursuit of power, his example asks fundamental questions. What would you die for? Whom would you die for? How far does your love extend? His life demonstrates that heroic sanctity is not reserved for a few extraordinary individuals, but is the calling of every human being. He shows us that love truly is stronger than death, that hope can survive any darkness, that human dignity is indestructible because it comes from God. Saint Maximilian Kolbe, the prisoner who faced Auschwitz with love, reminds us that our ultimate choice is always between love and its opposite. His witness echoes across the decades. When faced with evil, we can choose to respond with an even greater good. When confronted with hatred, we can choose love. When threatened with death, we can choose life. Not just for ourselves, but for others. In the depths of humanity's darkest hour, one man proved that the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Maximilian's victory in the bunker was not just personal triumph, but cosmic vindication. Proof that love is indeed the most powerful force in the universe.